Hello and welcome to another edition of the C Squared podcast. This is Curtis here with my co-host this time, Holly Royal, who is also the head publicist over at C Squared. So today we are talking to Adam from Scattered Hamlet, and we're going to be talking to him about all sorts of industry things like probably touring, image, social media, sales, videos, and that type of thing. But to start it off, just want to say thank you very much, Adam, for joining us.
Oh yeah, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. And now we are going to take it over to Holly to start off the interrogation.
I know, you make it sound so threatening.
Right.
Well, I mean, it would be great if you'd like to give us, I don't know, like a quick summary of the history of the band for anyone who hasn't heard of Scattered Hamlet before.
Well, we're sort of we're all from like rural Appalachia essentially, and we got our start in our music careers. We were all in Los Angeles at one point and doing different things. You know, we're all from punk bands, and you know, we kind of all met together from different bands, like in the Sunset Strip scene at the time. And a friend of mine, you know, named Ari, he did a lot of work with OTEP, and he's in Dystrophy and stuff, and he's a great producer. And he was like, he told me one time, he said, you know, no, I've known you long enough. You the stories you tell me and the things that you say are so not normal. We need to make a band around this kind of stuff. And he's like, well, and we're like, well, what should it sound like? So we're in the studio and we're like, would it be cool if we crossed like Molly Hatchet and Motorhead, you know, basically? And we're like, yeah, that would be great. So we basically made a studio band you know, called Scattered Hamlet, which we should have picked a more obvious name, but, you know, and we decided to kind of merge like traditional Southern rock and like Motorhead, you know, because we had that punk influence, and Motorhead's like one of those bands that is, you know, where the punk people claim and so do the metal people. And like, you know, are they a punk band? Are they a metal band? I don't know. Lemmy's just Lemmy, and he's a badass. So, you know, that's kind of the direction we decided would make perfect sense for what we were doing. So that's kind of how the band formed. And then you know, we've had a lot of lineup changes with touring and stuff like that, you know, but we have a pretty stable crew now, and you know, we're getting ready for the new release.
I have a follow-up, Holly, before you go on.
Go on.
Okay, cool. So can you kind of go over like the actual origin of the name? I think you kind of touched on it super briefly, but if you could just kind of go over that.
Yeah, I should have put like I found it in like a Civil War book. It was called it was called Scattered Hamlets, which is like, you know, small dispersed mountain communities, kind of like where we're from. So we thought, oh, that would be a really clever name. Well, it is if you're Iron Maiden, but if you're like someone like us, where, you know, like where, you know, our fans are drinking Busch cans and, you know, watching NASCAR and stuff, it wasn't obvious enough, but we're stuck with it. And there's bands who've had worse names that have been way more successful. So, you know, we just kind of go with it, and, you know, we'll still get haters online, be like, it's a stupid name. And then I just tell them their name's stupid. And then we have more impasse.
One more quick follow-up before I let Holly talk again. I'm sorry, Holly. What genre do you think you are, just out of curiosity?
I don't know, man. You know, like we're not a metal band, you know, like, because we'll get paired with like the most brutal metal, and like people write to my inbox and be like, bro, I know you like it brutal. And I'm like, you know, I listen to like Springsteen and George Michael and stuff. I do not like it brutal. I mean, I have appreciation for very heavy stuff, but like, we are not that, you know, like, I mean, our rep at Dean is in Deicide. That's brutal. Like those guys are, that's brutal stuff, and it's cool. So I don't know. I just call us hard rock, basically. You know, it's something like that. You know, that's what I call it.
Fair. I know it's one of those genres that seems to cross over to various different things. I mean, you do have the, you know, the metal thing, but you also got the hard rock. You got the rock. So
yeah, it's weird. We played at festivals with like legacy acts like Dee Snider, Lita Ford. Then we played with like Kid Rock. Then we'll play with Five Finger Death Punch somewhere, and it's like it kind of works. Steel Panther was just at a festival we were, you know, so I'm like, whatever, you know, as long as people aren't like throwing things at us, you know, and you know, or whatever, I guess it works, you know. I mean, I'm wearing a Purple Rain shirt, you know, like, I mean, I definitely am not very brutal.
All right, my follow-up for now, Holly, so I'm going to throw it back at you.
Sure. Well, I mean, I can't avoid talking about your image. because it's currently staring me in the face. If you're listening on Spotify, you won't be able to see, but Adam's got this amazing collection of Americana behind him.
Yep.
So I'd love to know, like, how audiences react to you.
You know, every ridiculous thing we've ever brought out on stage has just been an accident. You know, like one time someone gave us a beer keg and I stood on it and people lost their shit. I'm like, I didn't know I could stand on a beer keg. Like, I'm a 200-pound man. I'd kill myself falling off a beer keg, but you can stand on beer kegs apparently. So I did that. And then we're like, okay, well, that's part of the show. So somebody got us, it's back there. You can kind of see it. It's someone painted us a custom beer keg. So we're like, okay, we took that. You know, one time a roadie accidentally carried in one of our spare tires out of the trailer, and we brought it on stage, and I held it up, and people got very excited. So now we have a tire on stage. Like we have, I have one of my old shotguns as my microphone stand.
No way.
It's ridiculous. It's like I've killed turkey with that gun before, you know, and it's just really weird. Like, you know, like the things just keep getting added like that. Like one time we were at a big festival and they didn't give us beer. So Rich carried a cooler out on stage, like of beer. And it's at one point during the set, like the other guy on the other side's like, I need a beer. So Rich opens the cooler and throws it to him, and everybody just loses their shit. And we're just like, we just stop and I'm like, hey, Rich, throw me a beer. So now we carry a cooler on stage. We have it in our rider that we're either going to bring beer in or you're going to put beer in our cooler. Like, so we have to have that. It's part of the show. It's important.
Amazing. Okay, cool.
Or the other trick I use is I'll sit around and watch all old Kiss videos from the 70s, like to see things that they do on stage, like. And then I try to figure out how we can adapt this as low rent as possible with stuff we buy from Walmart. So pretty soon now we have light boxes that shoot out smoke and all this kind of stuff that we rigged up in a Walmart parking lot, you know, with just a YouTube video and some basic knowledge of electronics. So that's kind of how it works. So it's just all about the spectacle, you know, like just it should be a show. Like that's kind of where we pride ourselves on.
Again, I got another follow-up that I want to interrupt Holly with. So how does it go over when you play like that with that type of stuff in like the more, what's the right word I'm looking for? The non rural areas. What is the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, like more like urban kind of metropolitan. Yeah.
Yeah. How does that go over out there, out of curiosity?
You know what? Surprisingly well. Like we didn't know what to think. Like the first time we played in like Manhattan proper, we're like, what are people? I mean, there was all these like Velvet Underground looking like art like people like watching us, and what we ended up finding out was like that they kind of like wanted it's different. It's like, so there's a novelty of it there. Like one of our buddies was playing with the Lennon Claypool Delirium, you know, Les Claypool, Sean Lennon, you know, it's John Lennon's son, and he called me up while we were recording in Nashville, and he's like, hey, I'm playing with Les Claypool and Sean Lennon. Okay, that's kind of a big deal. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. He goes, well, you know, Sean wants to meet some real hillbillies. So I told him you guys would come backstage. And I'm like, yeah, we'll be there. You know, so I'm like, I'm going to go. So here we are, the real hillbillies or whatever, to go. You know, I'm talking to John Lennon's son, and I'm trying to get him to and he's like, are you chewing tobacco? And I'm like, yeah, I always chew tobacco, you know? So I'm like talking to him about, you know, chewing Red Man tobacco and like, and all this weird stuff. So there's a weird novelty to it. And like people seem, and it's really funny because we've made a lot of friends in the industry that are from bands that you would not think would have, and we walk around with them and we look like ridiculous. We're like their weird hillbilly cousins, you know, like from the hills to like the thing. You know? So, wow.
I love it. All right, Holly. Follow it up.
Okay. Well, you might have already answered this, I guess, but what's like been the weirdest experience on tour?
Like fan-wise or people in the industry we meet?
I guess, yeah, it's like as the band performing on tour, like if, I don't know, have fans done anything like really weird in the middle of performances? Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the weirdest stuff. Like, cause like there's you know, one of the things that we've learned is you know, I live right near West Virginia, basically. So it's very, I don't know if you're familiar with your US stuff, but like moonshine is a big thing down here. People run moonshine, they have for generations. And so, you know, that stuff is essentially like a Molotov. I don't have any here right now. I might, hang on.
Ooh.
I have a little bit left, like of this one, but like you see, it comes in a mason jar. It's pure clear alcohol, and when you shake it, the less bubbles it have, the more hardcore it is. So this is probably 190 proof, like straight, like alcohol. Like
I would fucking die.
yeah, that's the thing. So it became a thing, like where people started bringing moonshine to like our shows, and they'll pass them to you. And like back in the early days, you know, you pass me, I'll just take a sip of whatever. This is the worst idea ever. Like,
Yeah.
especially when the guy has like a gray beard and it's down to like his stomach, and he walks out like with the hillbilly hat and he passes you something. The first thing I always do is shake it to look at like what this is. And a lot of times, like, you know, I'll take like a little sip or whatever. So getting past like weird moonshine from different regions where people want to impress you with the impotency of their moonshine can go in a lot of bad directions. Like you take a big swig of that, it's very difficult to sing on stage. I'm glad like that I'm not glad that I can't sing like Chris Cornell, but like, you know, I wish I could, that'd be awesome. But yeah, so it definitely like things like that, or, you know, people want you to, you know, here, ride my motorcycle, you know, or, hey, you want to come down to my house and shoot guns? It's like, probably not, you know, like, cause that seems like, that's how like every unsolved mystery starts, you know, so.
Yep.
Yeah, you know, so those are kind of, you know, so those are like the weird things, like with the people that we, you know, attract, you know, like, and it's cool because I know these people, I've grown up around them and stuff, but, you know, they're a lot more hardcore than we are. So, you know, like that would be kind of the strangest one, you know, that I would say, you know, but, you know, like meeting other bands has been like the most fun thing for me, because I'm a music fan, you know, so when you get to go hang out with somebody that you've listened to for a while, you know, and just, you know, talk about music. And we all instantly become children in our rooms when we were like in 8th grade, like with posters on the wall, and we're just nerding out about like, you know, bands that we grew up listening to. And that's the big unifier, you know, is that I found.
That's cool. I want to do another follow-up, Holly.
Yeah, go on.
Cool. So, well, not really a follow-up. I want to divert the topic a little bit because we're already about 10 minutes in. So let's talk a little bit here about the promotion that you have done for your band in the past. Can you kind of give like a brief rundown of what you guys have done? Because you seem to have pretty good, decent Spotify, and you seem to have and you guys have done pretty good so far. So what have you guys done to kind of build it up to date?
Mostly it's been word of mouth, and like, you know, kind of very like touring a lot, you know, just getting like little enclaves. We didn't get any benefits. Like, you know, some bands get signed early. Some bands will get on big tour packages to spread the word. We didn't. We were like Black Flag style punk rockers that were like, you just go get in the van and you go play shows, you know, and you play terrible ones. Some places you catch on faster. And Spotify's been challenging for us because we can draw a lot more people and sell a lot more albums and merch than our Spotify would reflect. And that's been a battle with like industry people. They're like, well, your Spotify numbers say this. And I'm like, yeah, but if I sell 100 vinyl copies, I've already made more money than I did getting hundreds of thousands of streams on Spotify. And a lot of our fans would rather still have physical copies, and they come to shows and they like to buy t-shirts and merch, which, hey, in this day and age, that's God sent for us, you know, like that. But so, you know, the Spotify, I don't have an answer for. Like, it's just, I use it all the time. I think it's great. You know, like I'm a big, I was listening to that before you guys came in. I'm always pulling up different bands, but you know, so I think good social media content where we let people know what we're doing helps. Like if I go fishing, I'll make a YouTube video about it. If I get banned from TikTok all the time for doing things that I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Like our manager, it took like 2 weeks for a manager to get our verified TikTok account back, which I don't even understand. You know, I don't know what I did, but apparently I did something that violated the rules, but I'm back. And so, you know, that kind of stuff, you know, and everybody, you know, that we've gotten in the band, kind of has had that same sort of vibe where we're just sort of, we're entertainers. We've dabbled in lots of things, like whether or not, television, B&B movies, stuff like that. So we just kind of bring all that to the social media and just try to make it as engaging and fun as possible. And I think people like that instead of like your traditional, like, hey, I have an album coming out on this date. It's like, yeah, well, so do like 100 other people. So how are you going to, like you said it earlier with the image and stuff, like, how do you set yourself apart from a pack of people who are all really good? And, and so like my thing is like, so you make it engaging and you also make it, stay in your lane. Like I always say, like Shaquille O'Neal he didn't shoot 3-pointers, like, so, if we kind of stay in our lane where we belong, like it seems to work. And we have a pretty good understanding of what we are and what we do, so we're not like some people, a lot of younger musicians, I see that they haven't found their lane yet. They don't know what they do yet. And that's, and that can be a barrier to, like, if you don't know what you do, your fans aren't going to tell you and figure it out either. Like that's kind of, I think the key to social media. And also, even if you don't like this kind of stuff, if you just think you're funny, you'll keep, if you think we're entertaining, you'll keep watching us, even if you don't necessarily like it. If you want to see like, what is moonshine? Well, here it is, like it's that kind of stuff.
So we got about 10 minutes left. So Holly's going to ask some power questions.
Okay. I'll go faster.
Okay. I'd be interested to know, have you encountered any, I don't know, difficulties with whether it's like record labels or PR or anything, because your image and your style is so, for some people, sort of kind of extreme?
Yes, all of those things. We've had labels, like our whole new videos about like our experiences with record labels, and it's kind of like funny, but that don't quite understand what we're doing. And then, other people too automatically assume we won't make a political statement. We just won't. We think there's, like, look, I got friends in very political bands and that's what they do. And I appreciate that, but we won't, so one of the things that we've run into is, since we don't say anything, some people automatically put us into a category. Yeah. And that can become a problem whenever it's like, whether or not they're like, especially, it's especially bad if it's like racist things or anything divisive that we aren't into, like, and that can become a problem sometimes, and it's just sort of odd like that. And we've had to navigate, separate yourself from certain things. If we're using something and it becomes if we're using a symbol and it becomes associated with something else, then we'll wipe that. We will stop using that, because we're like, nope, that wasn't the intention. That's not why that was there in the first place. So, just kind of, staying true to what you are. And we still have problems with it, and I guess we probably always will, but all my favorite bands always piss people off. So I figured, like, if you're not at least upsetting somebody, you're doing something wrong. You're too safe.
Fair enough. Now I got one quick question on just in regard, or statement in regards to that. I mean, not statement, sorry, question. How have you guys gone over in like the European, UK markets to date, or have you not even touched it?
We've never played outside of the States yet, so I don't know how we would do live. Music wise, it's been hit or miss. Like, it depends on how metal you are. If you're very much into like, I call it like Renaissance fair, like symphonic metal, where they have crystal balls, that kind of stuff. I think it's awesome. We can't do it. I mean, you can see it. Not that Iron Maiden's it, but I have like Maiden stuff behind me. I love that kind of thing. So for the real metal traditionalists overseas, they don't want anything to do with us, but for the more rock oriented people, it's been a mix so far, like with just the music. So I've never played live, and we do better live typically than we do with our recorded material. So I don't know. I hope to find out and see.
Well, we have a premiere in 8 different locations in Europe coming on Friday. So hopefully
we'll have a better answer to that question.
Hopefully. But anyway, so Holly, I'll let you ask the final few questions, since now we're at 8 minutes.
Oh, okay. I've got to choose which ones am I going for. Well, I guess it'd be interesting to know a little bit more about the new video that's coming out. You touched briefly on the idea about it sort of being with your experiences with record labels.
Yeah. Well, I was watching Dolomite. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. And then Eddie Murphy remade Dolomite. He did a biopic of it called My Name is Dolomite. And Rudy Ray Moore, I believe his name, was a guy who produced his own movies. Like he's famous for his blaxploitation films in the 70s. And nobody would take any of him as a movie star seriously, or his movies seriously. And one of the things that stuck with me was at one point in time, there's a scene where they're telling him, well, your stuff only goes over in like a 5-block radius of where you're playing it. He goes, yeah, but those same 5 blocks are in every city in America. And that clicked in my brain, because I'm like, yeah, this same hillside that I live on, we have these all over the world in America. I was like, I think it's going to work. So like the video, some of the old school stuff is a throwback to Dolomite. And the other stuff was kind of my experiences talking to like record labels who, wanted to change everything about us. I've had a label, I won't call them out, but you guys have heard of them, wanted me to fire my whole entire band, sit down with a team of 5 of their writers and basically make like Nickelback style radio rock songs with a Southern influence. I was like, so I was just like, and they pitched it to me and were very excited about it. Like at the end of the conversation, they're like, so what do you think? And I'm just like, I think that's a terrible idea. Like, I mean, Nickelback does what they do very well. And it's like, why would you try to change us into something that's just so far from what has been working for us, and then get rid of the band, work with a team of writers. It was just like, I don't know, I'm down with collaborations and things like that. But, when you get so far away from what worked, I don't know, that's been our experience. And everybody, if you don't fit in the category in the industry, they want to make you fit in one of the categories. Like, why don't you be a modern country artist? No, I don't want to play modern country music. Or why don't you do this? And so that's been our experience. And that's kind of what the video was about. Just a funny way of looking at that.
Cool. So we got time, I think, for one more question. So I want to ask it, Holly. I want to ask. This is a controversial question.
Okay.
And it's for both of you guys. And I will answer too. But everybody has to give an answer on this. What is your favorite Nickelback song then?
Oh, shit. Yeah. Oh.
Everybody has one. No one can ever say they do not have a favorite Nickelback song.
The one that I could sing the most in my head right now would be the Rockstar song. But there's a smoking song that they were opening their sets with for a while that I heard one time. And I can't remember the name of it, but the guitar work and everything on it, like, they were ripping. And their cover of The Devil Went Down to Georgia is really good. So
I agree.
That's where I am with Nickelback. So they're not my favorite Canadian rock band. Rush is, or Triumph, or Bryan Adams. Those are my favorites.
Bryan Adams, the Reckless album was very, very, very good. I'll give you that.
So good. That's like the one I've been wanting to cover. Summer of '69. The band will just flat out stop playing. They're like, no, we're not doing that. I was like, okay, you guys answer.
Fucking album though.
Oh, it's so good, top to bottom, man. I mean, like that's I have it on vinyl somewhere down here. I don't know somewhere. But.
I saw Bryan Adams live when I was like 12 years old. They had Extreme and Steve Miller open for him. It was one of the best shows I ever saw. One of the best.
Steve Miller's awesome. So's Extreme. Yeah.
It's like, it was a diverse lineup, but fuck, it was fucking great. I loved it.
Yeah.
So, Ollie, your choice on Nickelback, and you have to give an answer because everybody Nickelback song.
I'm going to have to say Rockstar, and I feel as though it's really obvious, but it came out when, I don't know, I just remember going to loads of parties and things when I was like a young teenager, because that was kind of when it came out and everyone was always singing along to it. So
perfect.
I've got kind of good memories of that song.
We're all agreed on Rockstar then. So Holly, do you have a final question you want to wrap up with Adam, or what do you got?
Oh.
Final.
Are you bringing out a Scattered Hamlet Moonshine?
Probably get arrested.
Yeah. You know what? We're not allowed. One time we did pass it down off the stage, and this dude passed out outside, and he was in really bad shape. So the venues have asked us straight up, like, don't do that anymore. So if we do bring it in and they're cool enough to let us bring it in, but it's illegal. So, you know, like in terms of us, like, you know, it's because there's no FDA or anything governing the guy who made this out in a field somewhere. So no, we're not going to do that. And but I wish I would. That would be pretty cool. I would be down. I'd be down for like a bourbon. How about that? Like I drink a lot of like fancy bourbons. Like I'm gonna name drop. You ready? My buddies at Tom Morello's in Rage Against the Machine. I've known him for a long time, and he got me. And now Tom obviously does a lot better than I do in terms of his career, and he's done quite well for himself. So the bourbons that Tom drinks are a lot more high end than the crap that I drink. So when I would go out with him, he got me drinking these good bourbons, and like now I like really like the good stuff, but I really can't afford to drink it. So I would like to have my own signature bourbon so I could get more free bourbon that he's not paying for and that I don't have to like drop $50 a bottle on.
That is. So, Adam, do you have any final words before we wrap up?
No, I don't. You know, this has been cool, and you know, if you know, I'm down to keep answering. If you guys have your format's a half hour, that's cool. If you want to go more, I have nowhere to be. But
we'll have it back another day because the issue is I have an appointment in about 10 minutes. Otherwise, I keep. Yeah. But I want to say one thing. Watch out for the video for Scattered Hamlet on the 24th. We're putting this out today. And it's going to be at a whole bunch of different sites. So keep your eye open on the Scattered Hamlet page, C Squared page. I think it's going to be the first one's going to be going live sometime early in the morning that day. So keep an eye for it. It's a great video. Other than that, thank you very much, Adam. And we are done.